What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today I am sharing swatches of the OPI My Me Era collection for summer 2024. Now if you haven't heard of OPI before, I would be very surprised. They're a very popular brand, but they are a salon brand and they're also 3 free, meaning they are free of toluene, formaldehyde, and DPB. So we've got 12 new colors in this collection. They're all cream finishes and we've got a whole rainbow of super rich, vibrant colors. And fun fact, this collection is actually in support of the Trevor Project, which is super awesome. So I'll put a little bit more information down in the description. You can check that out if you're interested. But let me show you swatches of the polishes, then we can get into my thoughts on them, pricing, where to buy, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today it's the Orly Bonder base coat. So we'll start off with the namesake of the collection. This is My Me Era, and this one is a gorgeous salmon pink cream shade. And when I started applying this, I immediately fell in love. In fact, this is what I'm wearing on my nails in the intro and outro of this video because I just knew I had to wear it immediately. It's such a super gorgeous color. It feels like the perfect transition from spring into summer, and the formula is just so smooth and impressive. It actually gave me pretty nice coverage in the first coat, but I did need 2 to get full coverage on my nails. And I know this is such a mainstream kind of color. I feel like I've been really leaning towards these corals lately though. I don't know what it is, but they've just been working with my skin tone really well lately. So I was really excited about this one. Next up, we've got 2 very orangey toned reds. This first one is called You've Been RED, and you could just see on this first swipe, this is a 1 coat red cream. It's a little bit deeper, and like I said, it does have that orangey undertone to it. I ended up applying a second coat just to show you what it looked like with 2 coats, but I would absolutely wear this as a 1 coater. And if you've seen my nail polish organization video, or if you've seen how I store everything, you probably know I own a ton of OPI reds and I will never get tired of them. They just make incredible red nail polishes, and this one is no exception. And then we have the second red of the collection. This one is called Stop at Nothin, and this one, I'm not gonna lie, it is incredibly similar to You've Been RED. In fact, I am having a hard time telling these 2 apart. The only differences I can really see is that this one might be slightly deeper and slightly more orange toned, but other than that, they are definitely very similar to each other. Do I think you need both? Probably not, unless you're a collector of OPI reds like I am. But again, the formula on this one was incredible. It was 1 coat coverage, and it is a really beautiful shade. So I feel like depending on if you want a lighter version of it or a slightly darker version, that's how you would pick between You've Been RED and Stop at Nothin. Next up, we've got Feelin Fine, and this one is a golden orange cream shade. And again, just really nice opacity on this one. I feel like all of these shades are going to be very good for nail art because I always like to have really opaque shades for that. Even if they're not 1 coat coverage, I feel like you can usually tell in the first swipe if it's opaque enough to use for different nail art designs. And this one is definitely great for that, even though it did end up taking 2 coats for full coverage. I think it's a really pretty shade. I don't know that it suits my skin tone, but I do love wearing shades like this anyway. And then we've got the shade Lookin Cute-icle, which I have to say is definitely the best name of the collection. And this is the first of 2 yellow creams, but thankfully, unlike the reds, these yellows are fairly different, so it's easy to justify owning both of them. But this first one is a little bit deeper of a yellow. It's very slightly dusty and it's kind of a mustard toned yellow, so it has a little bit of this almost brownish undertone to it. And like most yellows, it did end up taking 3 coats for full coverage, but I think if you're pretty careful with your coats and you do 2 thicker coats, you can probably get away with that if you have short nails. But I never mind doing 3 coats for yellows because I just find them to be a little bit more sheer, and I do think that this is a really pretty shade. And then we've got the other yellow. This one is called BFFR, and this one is a lighter, almost pastel toned yellow cream. And this one I will say is a little bit dustier than it looks on camera. I feel like on camera it just looks a little bit too saturated, but it's definitely a little bit less than that. I would say it's more in the dusty sort of pastel range than this almost pastel neon color that it's starting to look like. But again, this one was 3 coats for full coverage, and it is a really beautiful color. Definitely leans more on the spring side to me just because of the pastelness of it, and I'll probably reach for the other yellow a little bit more, but I still think this is a good one. Moving on, we have the shade Priceless, and this one is this gorgeous apple green cream shade, and I totally love this color. I feel like it's such a grassy green basic kind of shade, but for some reason it's just not in nail polishes that often, and I think it's just because people kind of shy away from wearing greens. I know I've said it a million times that there aren't enough green nail polishes in the world, and I do think the brands have stepped up, but I feel like we still don't get enough of this kind of green, and I love that just yellowy undertone. This one was a little bit sheer in the first coat, but it did give me good coverage in the second. And then we have yet another green, but this one is a lot deeper and darker. It's almost like a blackened green. So like I said, brands really have been stepping it up and giving us more greens lately. I'm very surprised and impressed to see that a mainstream salon brand did 2 greens in their summer collection. But this is definitely an interesting choice, especially for summer, but I feel like it really is a great introduction into greens if you're not a huge fan of them, but you like wearing darker, vampier colors, because I do think in low lights, this one does kind of look like a black shade, but then you just get that really beautiful richness coming through when the light hits it. So another gorgeous shade, definitely not a one coater, but it gave me perfect coverage in 2. And then we have the shade Dream Come Blue, and this one is a cornflower blue cream shade. I think we've been getting a lot of this specific type of blue this season, but I am not mad about it. I think it is so beautiful. It definitely reminds me of the sky during the springtime, so I feel like this would be so beautiful with like little cloud nail art over it, but it's also very pretty on its own. A little bit sheer on the first coat, but it did give me perfect coverage in the second, and again, it's just a perfect classic color to have. And then we have the shade I Can Buy Myself Violets, which is another cute name, and this one is a dusty orchid purple cream shade. So the formula on this one was again incredible. It was fully opaque in the first coat. I ended up doing a second coat just to show you what that looked like on the nail, but I feel like when OPI does a one coater, I usually just wear it in the one coat and then put top coat over it, and it feels like a complete manicure, which is so nice when I'm in a hurry and don't really have time for 2 coats. But one thing I will say about this shade is I do think it's a little bit dusty for my taste. I wish it was just a little bit more saturated of a color, because this kind of orchid shade does remind me more of spring than summer. Moving on, we have the shade Purrrride, and this one is a deep red toned brown cream shade. It was a little bit sheer on the first coat, but it did give me really nice coverage in the second. I always think that's really interesting when these darker shades are more sheer in the first coat than lighter shades that are one coaters, but it ends up working out totally fine. But this is just a really beautiful rich brown shade. I always say that OPI does these beige nudes really well, and I do wish that they would do a little bit more brown nudes, so I was really pleased to see this in the collection, and I think it's just a really beautiful color. And last but definitely not least, we have the shade As Real As It Gets, and this is an almost white cream shade, but it does have a little bit of this very slight gray tone to it, and this one gave me perfect coverage in 2 coats, which I was so pleased by. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself that it's a little bit boring to have a white cream in the summer collection, but I love this. There was a collection, I don't even know how many years ago it was, but OPI came out with a Spider-Man collection, and there was this almost white shade just like this called My Boyfriend Scales Walls, and it was my favorite nail polish for years. Honestly, probably until I came across Alpine Snow, and that became my favorite white, but I am just so pleased to see a variation of this back. I think they do these really light shades so well, and I'm just really excited to have another version of My Boyfriend Scales Walls. So here are all the shades together, and I'm so frustrated that this doesn't look as cool in a grid, because when you line up all of the polishes together in a line, they look so beautiful, but it would be really, really tiny if I just did one row of polishes for this little screenshot for you guys. But either way, we do have a really beautiful rainbow of colors here. They're definitely going to be really great for rainbow nail art. I feel like they're going to be amazing for water marbling or for gradients or really anything that requires a more opaque polish. I'm very, very impressed by them. I know not everybody loves the all cream collections, and especially not when there's a lot of reds or pinks in it, but I feel like this is just such a perfect mainstream collection. You know, OPI also has to consider that there are a lot of people who maybe aren't that into nail polish, but just want to pick up a random red or pink when they're in the store. So they got to cater to them, but they also also really got creative with adding more colors that I think that mainstream audience might not like as much, especially with the second and third row there. So I really appreciate them kind of giving us something for everyone and just having good quality, reliable creams. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. So yeah, those are the polishes, and I have to say I am super impressed. I feel like OPI is just one of those great quality classic brands to go to. You know you're gonna get a good formula from them, and they have a really beautiful range of colors. I always feel like when I'm painting my nails with them, I remember why I love the brand so much. They're just good quality formulas. They level out so nicely, and they're really impressively opaque. So I really enjoyed these. I especially love that they're all cream finishes, and I love the whole rainbow of colors. It definitely lends itself to a lot of different Skittle manicures that you could do, but the colors are also just really pretty individually. So these are available wherever OPI is sold. I actually got mine from Beyond Polish, which is a nail polish retailer, and there the 15 milliliter bottles retail for $8.99 USD each, and you can use the code KELLI to get 10% off your whole order. They also have the Orly Bonder base coat that I use almost all the time, and they also have a bunch of different mainstream and indie brands as well, so I will link them down in the description. You can check them out, but I'm curious to hear everybody's thoughts on these. What do you think of this collection? Which color is your favorite? Are you planning on picking any of them up, or have you already? Let me know in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Ken, Rosie, and Angel. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Sabrina, and Sabrina wants to know, what would you do tomorrow if you won the lottery? I'm gonna be honest, my answer is very boring for that. If it's enough money to live off of for the rest of our lives, I would have Ryan retire from his job. I would keep working because I love what I do and I just think it's fun and I just happen to earn a living from it. But I would probably also want to take just a little small vacation. Ryan and I actually never did a honeymoon, or I should say we haven't yet because, you know, time and money, but maybe that is something that I would want to do. And I would probably want it to be pretty lavish if I won the lottery. So I think that's probably my only big purchase. But other than that, I would just have Ryan retire. If you want to answer the question, what would you do if you won the lottery tomorrow? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.